It's Monday night. The Celtics are up 2-0. Can the Mavs come back, or are they buried alive? We got answers. But first, yes, you are now listening to the sound of Sports Reports is Ordered. And you see, not only are we going to talk about the NBA Finals, but we got some relocation to talk about because Commissioner Silver has thumped the table on that again. We got some get it off my chest that'll take us to the NFL and that'll take us to Real Wives or something. But first, let's get this out the way. We got the even kill. Born in Texas, raised in VA, representing New Jerusalem. The best representative of New Jerusalem since the one and only Reggie Noble. He is Mr. Logical. And he only asks one thing of you. Don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
And I am your unorthodox statistician, going left so much you thought I was southpaw. I got a couple of things that I need from you. I need you to like, review, subscribe, share, and let Granny know that we are live. And we're going to get this thing started with Get It Off My Chest right about now.
So I'm going to start this firework off. It's nothing crazy for me, really. A lot of times we have conversations in our sports groups, a lot of these group chats and things of that nature. And I always I'm trying to get trying to harness good sports conversation, trying to cultivate good conversation. And it seems like no matter what happens, it can be turned negative. Now, Mike Tomlin, for some reason, has been on a hot seat for the last 3 or 4 years, even though he had an aging quarterback. He had a dude named Duck throwing passes. He had Mason Rudolph getting hit in the head by helmets, but yeah, he still seems to be able to coach these guys up to, never being below 500. So he gets an extension. That's the Steelers' way. We went from Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, to Mike Tomlin. Simple. They've been relevant every single year. Yes, you're not going to win a championship every year, and we know he has a long playoff drought of victories, but they make the playoffs a lot. They're a relevant team. They're a good team. They just, every once in a while, there's a player away, a quarterback away, but they're normally too good to get a high quarterback draft pick. They reached for Kenny Pickett at 20 and realized that's not the move. So they obviously are playing for the future. They obviously understand, we need to make these moves. So they went and got Russ and Justin Fields. So they're making good quality moves. And another good quality move is to keep stability in your building. A lot of people are picking the Bears to go to the Super Bowl, not realizing that it's a new offensive coordinator. It's the same coach that's been on a hot seat for a couple of years with limited success. I mean, they earned the number 1 pick a couple of years back and traded it away. That's how poorly they were as a team. Most of that staff is still there. Definitely the head coach, the GM is all still there. But yet, because they go get a new shiny penny and a new coordinator, now all of a sudden they go win Super Bowl. But the Steelers stay consistent and re-signed one of the legendary coaches of this game who has coached in 2 Super Bowls. He's 1-1 in those Super Bowls. It's a lot of coaches that will love to coach in multiple Super Bowls, and he's done it. But yet, he gets an extension. They, like he said, he swept Baltimore. Boston. Yeah, so my thing is when it comes to coaches and your team, would you want your team to fire a coach every few years or get a coach that's successful, understands the organization, understands the temperament of the fans, the temperament of the organization, temperament of the leadership and the ownership group of the organization, and can still lead men? That's what you need. Everything else will fall in its place. You need a missed field goal here. You need a tackle here, interception here. You need a missed block here, or a conversion here, and you can win these games. But before you get there, you need stability within inside the walls of your organization and your structure of your building. So if you don't have that, then you might as well just get yourself hooked onto the Jets train because they're going to fire their coach if they don't win this year. You can go and hook yourself to the Broncos train because they're going to fire Sean Payton. They're going to fire Mike McCarthy down in Dallas. They're gonna fire Mike Zimmer, only got a 1-year deal. Mike McDaniel might be out, and he's had a good run as a head coach because teams and fans just don't realize like how much it takes to be consistent. Mike Tomlin is the picture of consistency. If you open up the dictionary, is Mike Tomlin saying the standard is a standard. So shut it down. Congratulate that man. We want volunteers, not hostages. Come on, man. Like this stuff resonates with people, not just football fans. So shout out to Mike Tomlin, Newport News, Virginia's own. Shout out. But I'm proud of him for his extension. And it's through 2027. It's a big year for me as my son graduates high school. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, this is the right year for the extension because we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Look at that schedule. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? I mean, maybe this is the year they get their first playoff win since 2017. We'll see. With a dude named Duck not throwing the football.
Yo, man, name was Duck.
That's ridiculous. But get it off my chest. So I had many ways that I could have took this, but I think I finally found a place to land. So, I keep telling y'all about how we need to take control of our remotes. We need to take control of our TVs, our radios, so on and so forth. And I know I done seen it all when somebody sent me a clip of Kendrick Perkins on national TV talking about how he was frustrated or, LeBron James is sensitive because LeBron decided to unfollow him on Twitter. Now, part of the reason that this started is because Kendrick Perkins has been one of the few people on TV that have owned up to, hey, maybe Bronny's not it, while the other ESPN puppets are still trying to sell us that Bronny's going to be this guy or whatever. So, okay, cool. LeBron don't like you talking about his son, even though it's in bounds because it's about basketball. He didn't attack him personally or anything like that. So grow tougher skin. But in this latest one, it was where LeBron was talking about how he missed Kyrie Irving, missed playing with him and having him as a teammate and all this stuff. Kendrick Perkins turned that into, here's LeBron again, making it all about him. Okay, I'm with you, Kendrick. He didn't have to say that. He could have just said, hey, Kyrie deserves this. Kyrie is a great player. I'm happy for him, and you just move on, right? But LeBron knew what he was saying. He knew it was going to be the topic of the discussion because he's media savvy. This is where the problem comes in. So then somebody tags Kendrick and says, yo, you see LeBron unfollows you? And then he says, oh, well, not everybody followed Jesus. So then he gets on ESPN on First Take. He starts flapping about the gums, talking about how LeBron James is sensitive and how he unfollowed him on Twitter when he could have called him. Here's a secret, Kendrick. Here's a secret, Kendrick. You made it about LeBron. You brought it to the national airwaves. When we're sitting up here trying to criticize Jason Tatum in peace, and you're sitting up here trying to deviate us from that so you could talk about LeBron James. And not only that, but then you got on national TV talking about how another man is sensitive because he unfollowed you when your ass is on national TV talking about how another man unfollowed you.
Let's go, Mike. Let's go. I wish I had a bell in here. I wish I had a bell.
Like, look, you can say no. Just like I keep telling the people, you can say no, you know what I mean, and not have to talk about it. Sorry, Unc. You know what I'm saying? You can sit up here and talk about LeBron in this manner on national TV when you could have called him.
You're talking about social media on TV. Let's go.
This is a segment on a national show with high ratings in the middle of the NBA Finals where we could be using this space to criticize Luka, criticize Jason Tatum.
And the two hosts are getting paid well over $20 million to host this show. And this is what they're talking about. Yeah, keep going. My bad. Keep going.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what else I need to say to y'all for y'all to take your remotes back. Or maybe then again, after being on social media way much more lately the last couple of weeks, maybe some of y'all like this Real Housewives shit. Because people were talking about how Oh, I didn't even watch game one of the NBA finals. Why you here? Why you here?
Because, man, I think people, what I've noticed since we've been doing this and even before, I think what it is that I think I tell people all the time, I don't like reality TV. I watch sports. Like that's my version of reality TV. I don't watch the Married at First Sight. That's not my show. Real Housewives of the Love Islands or the Love Paradises or the Love Boats. All these different shows that come on. I don't rock with that. I watch sports. It is becoming hard to discern these shows from sport because shows like First Take, we'll call it out, they know damn well they should be talking about Luca's injuries, Porzingis injury, being listed as questionable, coming out dropping a triple double. Is Boston getting lucky because everybody they're playing seems to be injured? Are they lucky because somehow they had these trades fall into their lap where they ended up with Holiday and Porzingis on a team that was just off a year when they won the finals? It's like so many different storylines you can converse about on TV with intelligent people. And that's the thing, is like it's not shock jock radio guys that made it to ESPN and we're having these conversations. Stephen A. Smith talks about his record all the time, his education record, how long he's been in journalism. Shannon Sharp, the same thing. He's been in journalism a long time, Hall of Fame, tight end. Perk played a lot of years in the league. I think he has connections to people. I personally, if I had to fire someone from, I don't really rock with. I don't like his cadence. So like, if he wasn't on TV, it wouldn't bother me. I'm not trying to make a man lose his job, but it's like I don't really need him on TV, especially when every time you talk like you're like creating a beef with someone or trying to settle a score on TV. Like he does it all the time. Carry on. It's like say something analytically intelligent that's conducive to basketball and sport dialogue. That's it. That's all people need from me. I don't care what happened on Twitter. I don't care what happened on Instagram. If you think Bronny's not ready for the league, that's fine. But the only reason y'all were talking about Bronny is because he's LeBron's son. The only reason you have a whole segment about who unfollowed you is because it's LeBron. I'm pretty sure a lot of people unfollowed him in that time frame, but it's like, oh, I'm gonna talk about LeBron because LeBron unfollowed me. He wouldn't talk about that if Richard Jefferson unfollowed him. That wouldn't have been a segment. It would
A
have been a
whole
segment
segment.
if JJ Redick unfollowed him. That wouldn't have been a segment. But because and on top of that, it's like someone told you should have been like, oh, you got my phone number. Hit him up. He's like, yo, Rich Paul called me. Cool. We don't need to know that. But you're only really sharing that information because you want to get like this buzz off of this man's name.
It's
And
like
he's
it's
like,
like
yo, I'm
listening.
sick of it.
It's like listening to a game verse. Don't take a shot every time game say somebody's name.
Yo,
You know
I'm
what I'm
telling you, all he
saying?
does, that's a perfect analogy right there. Because all he does is name drop all the time. But
You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? But yeah, so anyway, we're going to do the right thing on this show. And we are going to talk about, guess what? The NBA Finals.
yeah,
Because
the real sport.
we have a 2-0 series headed back to the great state of Texas on Wednesday night. Now, what I'm a little bit concerned about is that I want to pick Dallas to win game 3, right? I don't have a reason to outside of the fact that they're back in Dallas. But what I'm concerned about is if Luka is truly hurt, but if I remember correctly, between games 3 and 4 is the only 1 day break in between games. So is this going to be a matter of Luka running out of gas before his assistants can get to him?
Yeah, I think they play Wednesday and then they play Friday.
And then it goes back to, yeah.
So it depends on when these guys got into Dallas. I don't know when the Dallas players left. So if they left immediately after the game and get these guys back to their homes and apartments and their own beds and things of that nature, if they got that, then maybe a couple of days at home, coming to the arena in their own vehicles in their own time, maybe that'll loosen them up. I think the Dallas fans would be, because Dallas, if you think about it, they were down 8 after being down 29 in game 1. off of Luka's hot shooting. I think there was a couple of sequences where they could have cut it to 6 or 5. And then Jason Tatum came out, hit the 3, and then Boston goes on like a 14-0 run, and it goes back up to 22.
Pritchard hit that 3 at the end of the quarter.
And then in game 2, Pritchard did, they had the same little run, but they don't get the chase down block. I mean, the second greatest chase down block in NBA Finals history. If they don't get that block, they're down 3, and Boston, maybe they fumbled the inbound or the pass.
They were scrambling at that point.
Yeah, we saw Indiana do it against Boston, where sometimes you just get the wrong guy with the ball in his hand, and it's pressure. We go back to Indiana versus the Knicks, and Anthony Mason just basically let the ball go, and Reggie Miller picks up and shoots the 3. So anything can happen when you're down 3. But being down 5 and the other team has the ball with 50 seconds left, then that's a different animal. So I mean, we said it before. The block it should have been called a foul. It was bang bang. I think the push in slow motion maybe looks worse. PJ Washington didn't look like his balance was thrown off. So I don't know if it just was a matter of because it was every replay I saw was slow motion with the hand on the back, but it never looked like he was off balance at all. I think if he sells it a little bit more, if he sells the push, then maybe they have to call it. I saw someone on First Things First. The timekeeper stopped the clock thinking a foul got called. Either they thought the basket went in or a foul got called, because they stopped the clock at 50.5 seconds for about 2 seconds, and they started running it as Boston dribbled the ball. And I think even Jaylen Brown reacted like he thought it was a foul.
Because it was.
He thought a foul got called.
Right.
I'm optimistic for Dallas in game 3, because I imagine Luka's going to rest. Derek Jones is going to be able to see all the blue and not the green in the crowd and play a little better. It gives them a couple of days. They have 2 games of film to figure out how are we getting beat on these switches, because I've seen a lot of switches where Gafford, Lively, and Luka are getting caught in the pick and roll and the switch. It's happening pretty much almost every possession. When Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum has the ball, they switch. They try to get one of the bigs isolated on Brown or Tatum. Unless Jason Kidd can come up with something different to stop doing that, because Gafford is no good to you 18, 20 feet from the hoop with anybody that can dribble the ball with his left or right hand. He's just too big to keep up with the shifty Brown or Tatum. He's too big to try to keep up with Derek White, because Derek White's small and crafty. Drew Holiday, if that's the switch, that's a mismatch. And I think the same thing for Lively. Lively's athletic, but I think they're using his youth against him and just putting him in a bad situation where he's overplaying it and maybe getting a silly foul that's frustrating him, and he's not getting that lob dunk because they're getting to his body every time he comes down for the lob. Because it's I think Boston realized these guys feed defensively off the energy they get from those lob dunks. So I've seen a lot of plays where it was they got a lot of blocks. Boston got a lot of blocks at the rim off those lob dunk attempts, or they're just getting to the body and not letting him jump. He'll catch the lob, but not let him jump towards the rim with it. For everybody that's trying to catch these alley-oop passes.
Attention all units. Attention all units. We have an APB out on a Kyrie Irving. I repeat, a Kyrie Irving. This guy that people were having a conversation just a week ago about him being better than Steph Curry, about him being a top 5 point guard in NBA history, about him being one of the best NBA Finals performers this side of Jordan. All that stuff. The savior was coming to bring Luka his ring. And you know what I've seen in these first 2 games of the NBA Finals? He's the 3rd leading scorer on Dallas. He's being outscored by the aforementioned PJ Washington. Mr. Irving is averaging 14 points a game in these here NBA finals on 35% shooting. He has not hit a three yet in this series. As a matter of fact, Luka Doncic is the only Maverick that has hit more than one three-pointer in these two games in this here NBA finals. Now, the reason why I think it's over, and by over, I don't mean it's a sweep. I just mean I don't see a way Dallas wins 4 games against this team. Is last night in the first half, that was probably the worst half they're going to get out of Boston in this series.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum went 6 for 22 overall, and here's a stat out there for those that like such things. That last night was Jason Tatum's 8th NBA Finals game, small sample size, but 8 games.
Correct.
In those 8 games in the NBA Finals, he has shot a combined 35%, which is the lowest of any player since the 1979-80 season on at least 150 shot attempts in the NBA Finals. But he was 1 rebound short of a triple-double last night because more than not, he did the right thing. He made the right basketball play. So I want to give him credit for that, but it's just that it's okay because he's probably not going to be the guy that hits the defining shot. He's not going to hit the timely backbreaker, but he can set it up. He's sacrificing to some degree. And I would like to give him more credit for sacrificing, but he still took 22 shots. He hit 6 of them. You know what I mean? I guess you gotta shoot. Luka.
Yeah, you gotta shoot because, like I said, they're putting him in a position where there's nobody on the floor that matches up with him. He just has to knock his shot down. Gafford is bigger than him, but can't
can create laterally.
Yeah, he can create space, but the problem is he wants to create space on jump shots. I'm like, just watch what Luka does. Luka shoots a lot of threes with minimal dribble effort. I'm gonna shoot this 3 from 28 feet. Or when I dribble, I'm gonna dribble into the paint. I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep the guy on my hip.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna set up all you dominoes to where I could get my shot off. I think sometimes Tatum gets to the paint and he sees the help coming and he's like, well, I got a smaller guy on me. I work on this turnaround jumper from 12 to 15 feet. I'm gonna shoot it now versus, you know what? Let me, like Luka will hit you with that turn. He'll pivot on that turnaround and pump fake and come back around and shoot like an 8-foot floater off of that. Cause when you're that tall,
and that's what I was going to bring
you
up.
create that space. Yeah. I was
going to bring
like Tatum takes the first shot.
He needs a floater, or he needs to get into his Kevin Durant bag and just pull up at the free throw line from time to time, or how about this? Go all the way to the basket with the intention of deliberately finishing.
Just go in there and create contact because the guy that's gonna hit you, the guy defending you is smaller than you, no matter who he is, unless it's Lively or Gafford. Everybody else is smaller. Luka's not gonna defend you all the way to the rim. If you beat Luka off the dribble, it's Ole.
Hell, Luka might not even step up to challenge you.
Yeah, but I've seen it. Like he's just like, you know what? I'll just funnel you to Gafford. I'm not going to chase you down. I'm going to let you go into the Gafford or Lively or even Derrick Jones. But you're bigger than Derrick Jones. So you're more likely to get a foul.
And all you people out there that are talking about Luka might deserve some final MVP votes, don't forget he had 8 turnovers last night too. But I wanted to ask you, so we're in game 2 is over. 2-0.
Yep.
Who is your current leader for finals MVP right now?
It's fluid, and as the facts change, so does my opinion. But as of right now, I think it would be Jaylen Brown. For me, like I said, I already picked Jaylen Brown, but I'm gonna go with what I think the voters are thinking. Because, like I said, I picked Jaylen Brown for the reasons that I'm going to give now, and I think the voters are probably looking at it the same way. I think he's involved in every major play when the clock's a factor. From the Eastern Conference Finals where he hit the 3, the block at the end of the game where he was part of the chase down, the big rebounds, hitting the free throws. It just feels as if like we talked about Tatum getting the 10 points in overtime in that game one against Indiana, but he doesn't get there without Jaylen Brown. I think that carries over to now to where he has the big blocks in game one. I think he had 3 blocks. A lot of them were at the rim. He had 2 huge dunks that kind of set the tempo, along with Porzingis shooting a 3. So Porzingis shooting a 3 was getting the audience into it, and then Jaylen Brown coming through the dunks. Tatum had a couple of dunks as well, but Jaylen Brown's dunk where he took on 4 to 5 Mavericks on one play, like he shook Luka. Kyrie or Derrick Jones tried to reach in and foul him. Kyrie came over from one side to try to block it. Gafford came over, and he still got the dunk. I think that those kind of moments are locked in with the voters because you see them, and like I said,
so that's like the MJ switching hands, like
switching
that's
hands. You see these moments, and then you see the defensive plays the whole game one where it's a blowout because you didn't get a lot of offense from him or Tatum, but he got 3 blocks in game one, and a couple of them were on like wide open dunk attempts. It was like they were like dope blocks, and then he got the, like I said, he was part of the chase down. Just along with this, I think that is what's giving him the edge. Jason Tatum got a lot of rebounds, but he also was the only one in the game when the game was out of hand in game one. Like 4 minutes left, it was him, Derek White, I think like Pritchard Hauser, and somebody else off the bench when Dallas' whole starting lineup was on the bench. So I think Jason Tatum got 3 or 4 rebounds and essentially like mop-up duty that kind of boosted his numbers because it was like the game was out of reach where he still was on the floor and Jaylen Brown wasn't. So I think that's another piece that if they were paying attention to lock into. Porzingis probably won't stay hot, and he has to be hot to be effective.
right.
Where like he's out there, but in order to be MVP level effective, he has to be hot. Like he has to literally go 8 for 13 next game with 4 or 5 threes. Because Jaylen Brown's going to get 20 shots if he wants them, 22 shots if he wants them.
Yeah, I got Jaylen Brown right now. I think a lot of people are gonna react to last night, and they would answer Drew Holiday because he had the best game in the close game. We were kind of talking about this before we came on. Whereas
if it happens again, if it's 108, 101, and he has 24 points and 9 assists, and he hits the 3 that puts them up 7 late in the game, then that'll be the number that people remember.
I think the voters, unless unseen calamity happens, I think they're going to give it to Jason Tatum. I think he's going to have the pretty numbers in every category. I think he's going to have the, like right now he's averaging 17, 10, and 9 or something along those lines.
He needs to have 27 in the next 2 games.
Okay, fair enough. But
he's got to go not just 20, but it has to be efficient. He has to go like 11 for 18, 27 points, 9, 10 rebounds, 6, 7 assists. Like he has to have the game to where he has to go toe to toe with Luka for him to get the edge.
So he needs to display a little and demonstrate a little Mamba mentality. You're saying?
Not necessarily Mamba mentality. I think that's the bridge too far, considering like who that. He's got to be more Paul Pierce than Jason Tatum.
Okay.
He's got to be out there like, because Paul Pierce did it with Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett on the floor. I don't know how many points he had, but it looked like
he averaged 1 more point than Garnett.
Yeah, but it looked like he averaged 7 more. Like when the crowd's on their feet and he's looking up at the shot clock and he needs to take the shot, or he's going to the free throw line, or like we talked about the Willis Reed moment when he went to the locker room, came back with the leg sleeve. Really, all he do was take a shit. But those kind of things work on the voters. And I think Jason Tatum doesn't need a bad game from Jaylen Brown. He just needs to be the guy that answers. Because he answered the run in game 1, but it was after a timeout. So they called the timeout when they were up 8, when they came back from 29 down to 8. So it kind of like looks bad on him that he allowed it to get that far. But then he came back out and hit the 3 that started the run again. But he has to hit that 3 before the timeout. He has to hit the 3 that causes Dallas to take
you staggering into the timeout.
Yeah, he has to hit those. He has to hit that shot, the layup, the and one, the block. He has to make the play that causes Jason Kidd to come out on the floor, call a timeout, and yell at the refs. That way, the camera follows him from the where he shot the three, getting high fives. The way Jaylen Brown and way Drew Holiday is getting that kind of those kind of like on screen accolades, even though he's out there. Those kind of moments, I think voters lock into. That's how
So,
Iguodala got it over Steph, because Steph
so I've
was
been
just scoring points, but Iguodala was shutting LeBron down, and that was on camera. Like that was like the thing people focused on. It was like, look what he's doing. They would go to commercial breaks playing replays of him getting a steal or getting a block and stuff like that.
so I'm trying to figure out what Dallas is trying to accomplish because, like, if I go back to Game 1, Kyrie missed a lot of easy shots that you tell yourself, like, I trust Kyrie to make those shots down the road. Obviously, that wasn't in Game 2, but you say to yourself, Kyrie is going to make these shots more than not. And then when you get to Game 2, you held Boston to, like I said, probably the worst half they're going to play in this whole series, probably the worst half they've played in these playoffs so far, and then you still weren't able to come over the top. So when I look at Dallas, I'm like, what are you trying to do? Like at some point, you may have to, I don't want to say change your style, but you just have to have the ball in Kyrie's hands a little bit more, maybe. Where Luka isn't just solely trying to, because when Luka sets people up, it's not fluid, it's not in rhythm, and
jump passes to the corner,
yeah. And
bounce passes
here's
as
another
they
weird
drive into
stat
the
for
paint.
you.
Yeah.
So here's another weird stat for you, and this one is courtesy of Dan Devine. He's a senior writer at Yahoo Sports. I was listening to the Goodwill with Vincent Goodwill earlier. He was a guest, and in these two games, Boston has had 68 spot up shots, so 34 in each game. Dallas combined has had 28 spot up opportunities in these two games. Now, that was odd to me when I think of Luka from the standpoint of pound, 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 kick it out, shot clock, whatever. Like I would have thought they would have got more looks like that. But it sounds like and looks like Dallas is just forcing shots because a shot has to be taken. But I
Well,
don't think they have a
talked about
flow.
that. You talked about that in Game 1, where all the role players were getting balls on fast break off of missed 3-point shots and rebound opportunities, and they were challenging Porzingis at the rim like
Right.
clumsily.
Right.
Like Porzingis, no matter if he's injured or not, he's still 7'3".
Right.
Now he gets his hand up, even running backwards.
Don't even got to jump.
He doesn't have to jump, and you're coming downhill full speed, and it's like you got to try to beat him off the dribble to the rim, and you're not. So you try to jump into him, but like even if he jumps after you, his arms are so long, he's gonna come down, and you're gonna get some wild shot off the backboard. Hardy did it. PJ Washington did it. With Dallas, and we talked about this before the series started. All of their role players get their action off of Kyrie and Luka's ability to draw the defense in. I think Boston's just doing a great job of playing Kyrie one-on-one and then funneling him to the rim and just letting Luka do Luka. Because Luka threw one bounce pass to Dante Exum, but it was like he bounced it behind two defenders, and it bounced back, and it just was right in the pocket. It was a beautiful pass for Exum. He tried it again, and Jason Tatum lagged off, and he bounced it right into Jason Tatum's hand. He got the steal, turned around. I think they got layups out of that.
Yeah, 8 turnovers.
So like that works every once in a while against Minnesota if they're overplaying Luka because they don't want Luka to get his shine on. I think Boston's kind of letting Luka play, and I think they're dictating to Luka, this is open and this is open. It's like the Italian Job when Seth Green's character was moving the armored truck around. He was moving changing all the stoplights. It's like you think you're in control. Oh, look at this light. I got this light. It's moving it here, moved it there, moved it there. Then boom, the ground opens up. The armored truck falls through, and it's like now you're getting robbed. I think they're doing that with Luka is because you think it's open, and it really isn't. Like they know Derek Jones is going to shoot that wing three, and he was 29% coming into the series. I'm pretty sure that's dropped at least
And they're
20.
not knocking them down, so you're
And
not
I don't
giving
think he's hit
Boston a
one
reason
yet.
to. You haven't
And I
given
don't.
Boston a reason to adjust.
And I think another thing is when you don't close out on a guy who's not hitting, I think that gets in his head too. He's like, they're not even closing out on me. They're just trying to look for the rebound. Because he's probably shot the most wide open threes I've seen of anyone. Kyrie's created space, but Derrick Jones has been wide open. PJ
Right.
Washington's been wide open in the corner, and I think he's missed a lot of them.
And that's why I brought up PJ, because the OKC series is the only series that he's played well in from that standpoint. So, as you would say, the evidence doesn't support the fact that I should be concerned about PJ Washington. Like, he may have a game. So game 3, going back to Dallas, he may go 4 for 7 from 3 or whatever, 4 for 8 from 3. But that's still, that one game is not enough reason for me to change what I'm doing, even if Dallas wins that game.
And another thing with Dallas, I imagine that they're gonna have Jason Kidd is gonna make some adjustments. Does that adjustment take away, because he was playing a lot of Green? He played Green, Exum,
Hardy,
Powell, Hardaway a lot in the Minnesota and the OKC series. Those guys got a lot of run. They were on the floor a lot, and we getting a lot of opportunities. Watching these games against Boston, it's been very tight. And I don't know if guys just aren't taking their open shot because it's been so tight, and it's been like, yo, let Luka cook. And I'm just not sure where you go. Like, do you go back to Tim Hardaway? Do you start him? Like, I mean, do you just switch it up?
I would. I'm at the point where I would sit down Derrick Jones and put Hardaway in. You know what I mean? Even if Hardaway doesn't finish the game, just to start off with a different look, to see if I got a spark before I go back to being garbage.
Yeah, because I'd take that. I would take Derrick Jones against the second. I'd take Derrick Jones against Cole Hauser in the second unit with Kyrie running it, throwing the same lob passes, because I think athletically he can defend Pritchard, he could defend Hauser, he could defend Derek White if he's running with the second unit. But if Tim Hardaway is out there in the starting lineup, I can see him matching up with Derek White and not being overwhelmed.
You give the defense something to think about.
You give, and he's a guy that can create off the dribble. I mean, he's been kind of, I don't want to say relegated to a spot up shooter in Dallas, but I think you give him the ball, he can create, for himself, and put, maybe Derek White gets a cheap foul trying to guard him or something along those lines, just to switch it up.
Right.
Because your two guard, because I guess Luka would be considered your point guard, but really he's more like a small forward. So if you got your small forward in Derrick Jones and he's not giving you anything offensively, then you're already playing small ball. So you might as well just run Tim Hardaway out there and then bring Derrick Jones with the second unit. You get that same energy.
I mean,
you can run the second unit with him and Lively. You can run a second unit with him and Lively, and Kyrie throwing lob attempts to the two of them.
I might even try to go depth lineup on you and put PJ Washington at the 5, for a few minutes out of the quarter. So give me Luka, Kyrie, Tim Hardaway Jr., at the 3, and then, or I might.
You can't. I don't think you could do that, because Boston's best wing scorers are big and they attack the rim. Tatum and Brown are going to attack the rim without Gafford or Lively in there. It would be too inviting.
Dallas needs to be able to play under more control faster. And that's kind of the problem, is that they're out of control. They're out of sync. So Luka is the only one that I guess can maintain his pace, if you will. Everybody else is being sped up. So by having another ball handler out there.
Who does Boston have to take out? If they go small ball, you just can't play Horford?
Potentially.
But you could,
because I would imagine you would still leave Porzingis out there.
If they go small ball,
because he's not a lumbering center like Embiid.
Yeah, do I want Porzingis on Washington? I mean, you could, but like I said, that would be predicated on you not.
But you're at right. But you're also at the very least you're taking Porzingis away from the basket on defense potentially.
Yeah, but you still have a vicious on-ball defender in
You
Holiday,
do.
and then you have
Look, Boston is the best
but,
defensive
but
team. You know what I mean? Like
the best defensive
you gotta
team.
try something.
You got to
Yeah,
try
like
something.
yeah,
I'd keep a big in. I'd go small ball. I would start Lively maybe with the small ball, and I have him because he can move, and maybe you go like I said, lineup of death, like you're so PJ Washington, Hardaway, Luca, Kyrie, Lively, and try to just out effort them
yeah.
with PJ and Lively, and then get your 3-point shots off with Luca, Kyrie, and Tim Hardaway. You got to do something
Yeah, you
because
just gotta do it.
Boston's they've had their bad shooting game, and that's the problem.
Right.
Like they just had their bad shooting game, the game that Miami capitalized on, the game that Cleveland capitalized on, and the game
Number
that partly
18.
in the Indianapolis, Indiana capitalized on as well, but they end up losing at the end. You had that game where Boston was terrible from three, and they had the lead at halftime, and then Pritchard hit the three at the end of the third, which pushed it back up to 9, which is just it's so deflating because it's not really it's a practice shot, obviously, but it still has an element of luck to it.
Well, it's like that shot
And he
that
pushed
Jokic
off.
hit on. It's like that shot Jokic hit on AD last year.
And AD was just like,
It's like, what can you do? Like,
and
you know what I mean?
you
Like,
walk to the huddle, and the whole 4 or 5 minute commercial break, all you thinking about is like, man, we would have been down 4, we would have been down 3 with the ball starting the fourth, but now we down 6 because this dude hit this crazy 3.
yeah, and but so number 18, it looks like it's on the way. So Adam Silver came out last week being asked about expansion. He brought up the possibility of everybody else has been tracking Seattle and Vancouver, or I'm sorry, Vegas, as the next two possible locations. Then he went out there talking about potentially adding teams in other countries. What we doing, Mr. Logical?
Man, we just greedy. It's just greed because it's not entertaining. This is a home like basketball is international, true indeed, but the NBA isn't international. Basketball is. So I think they need to kind of understand the difference between basketball being international and the National Basketball Association being international. Because we talked about it. There's people who didn't watch the NBA finals who were posting on Twitter and in Facebook about how they wish the two worst NFL teams were on TV right now. So it's like you got to work on keeping your main thing, the main thing, which is your homegrown audience. You can sell the NBA to foreign countries as a visual, as just an entertainment piece. But you can get the money home at home. They're getting $76 billion from NBC over the next 11 years. I mean, how much money you think you're gonna get from London, England, or Stuttgart, Germany, or Munich, or Barcelona? Like, are you really
Madrid,
gonna get
yeah,
a team?
something.
Like, are you really
Yeah.
gonna get that much more money? Because like they have the sport that they love, and it's so many. I don't know if people understand how many tiers of soccer are in all these other foreign countries. There's like multiple leagues. There's like 4 or 5 leagues that get real fan base credibility in each one of these countries overseas. England has multiple leagues. Spain has multiple leagues. Germany has multiple leagues. Belgium has a league. Italy has a league. Then they have another tier under that gets the same kind of clout, like the show Ted Lasso. That's a real thing. AFC, like those kind of teams, they're small teams, but they get a lot of fan base. They get a lot of fanfare in their region. And then they have the whole UEFA where all the teams come together and they play against each other. And they have the Champions League where all the champions play together. So they get so much out of that sport that it's not basketball, NBA basketball is not enough. Because first of all, you're not going to send one of your marquee franchises there. You're going to try to do an expansion. Expansion teams, you're not going to send one of your marquee stars. You're not going to put, if we looked at it right now, Anthony Edwards, Luka Doncic, SGA, hell, James Harden, Embiid,
Jason Tatum,
LeBron, Jason
the
Tatum, Jaylen
Giannis.
Brown, Giannis. None of these guys are going to be on that team. You might get a couple of guys from Detroit. You might get a couple of these guys off the Dallas bench. Maybe you get a few players off of, a few young guys that are coming into the draft because you got expanded, but you're not getting any one of these guys who are primed for John Morant, Zion Williamson. Those guys aren't going to get, those guys aren't going to be on one of these teams. So now you're sending over a mediocre team, a mediocre product to try to compete with an already established hierarchy in the sports, but it's a completely different sport. There's one thing if you're sending over another soccer team and then maybe they can compete and you can pull people in because it's soccer. You're trying to compete with something that's entrenched and ingrained in their society. And then it won't, if you send a G League squad, who knows who's on the G League teams? So, I just think your best bet is to keep the money in-house, move New Orleans to Vegas, and move. Who else is not really moving the needle? I think Memphis is pretty like things. They already moved from Vancouver, and I think they're getting the draw. They have John Morant, and John Morant is big time when he plays. I would move New Orleans to Vegas just because Vegas you can sell anything. Most pop stars when their career is almost over, they go to Vegas and make $100 million. I think Bruno Mars is out there in debt, but he's getting like $50 to $80 million a year from the MGM Grand to do his residency.
Oh, Detroit.
But Detroit's losing everything. They already lost. Detroit needs something because if they lose,
they still got Marshall Mathers.
And so I would say not Houston. Phoenix is probably good. I don't the Clippers aren't moving out of LA. Maybe Sacramento. I know their fan base was basically non-existent for a few years until De'Aaron Fox really started to turn it up. But you move them up the coast to Seattle.
The Hornets.
Well, I think you got to keep it. Well, if you do that, then you got to move. Yeah, you can move the Hornets to Seattle. Then you just move Memphis to the east. Just move them out of the west, which I think they should be in the east already. So that makes sense. So you move Charlotte from North Carolina up to Seattle. You move New Orleans to Vegas, and then you run it from there. But trying to get this international stuff is just.
So I think the NBA got the continent right. I think they got the idea wrong. So the idea is to borrow, to your point earlier about soccer, is maybe it's time for a little bit of relegation, and me and Residente talked about this a little bit earlier on Cups in the Game, but using the G League to get to that purpose, because remember when the in-season tournament first got formed, that was my initial takeaway, was that I was against it because it's just NBA teams playing against NBA teams. What makes these tournaments like the UEFA Champions League and so on and so forth so great is that you do get Italian squads playing against Brazilian squads, so on and so forth. And you know what? You can have your liquor games, okay? But the thing is that you have a G League, a functioning G League. So, you take your teams like this year, right? The Wizards and the Pistons are about to be rewarded with top 5 draft picks off of not trying to win any games at all.
They tried. They just weren't successful at it.
They didn't try. The Pistons might have tried. The Wizards ain't try. As soon as they signed Jordan Poole, they told you what time it was. But then once
he's getting Justin Jefferson money to play like that. Just think about that.
But when you look at it, you have the G League in place. So just for a second, you bring Washington and Detroit down to the G League. You bring 2 teams up, and you play with that, and get them into free agency, sign some people, see how that goes for a few seasons. And I know college football has even talked about that, being an idea for down the road. But trying to put a team in Europe, I don't know how that works, because I feel that you would have to have 5 or 6 teams just over there to make it worthwhile. So that way say you got the Lakers and the Clippers, you send them over to Europe. You have a team in London, Paris, Berlin, Madrid, or Barcelona, both maybe. So you send the Lakers and Clippers over there for, say, a 2-week window where that's their road trip, is they're playing against these European teams, and then they come back home and maybe you give them a 7 or 8 game homestand after that, but outside
If
of
they
that,
want to do
I don't know
that,
how it will work.
I would get rid of the G League teams that are here locally and just send them to an NBA Europe league. So 10 teams from the G League that generate, because not like it's a lot of guys get pulled up from the G League, get run in the NBA. Mac McClung, only time he gets run is a slam dunk contest, which he's won 2 years in a row, but yet he can't get any burn in the NBA, but he was G League MVP.
Right.
So it's like, what's the point of your G League? He was on the Lakers roster, and the Lakers told him, oh, man, we really need a guy that's explosive, that can score. I'm like, you had a guy. He literally won the dunk contest 2 years in a row, and you let him go. Philly is the same way. Like why? Like, I think it's just the way the NBA uses the talent or lack thereof, or like their use of the talent. Relegation is supposed to inspire like competitiveness, because it's an established league and it's established teams beneath you that
But
can
it
come and
does,
compete.
because you're telling
The
these
G
teams
League,
that you're going to be demoted. So that's the competition, or that's the competition, is to stay here. It's to stay here.
I imagine that you could do that with, like, the baseball has their minor league and they move players down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any NBA owner, with how, I want to say greedy, which with the investment that they made a great investment, is going to make them a lot of money. However you got involved with an ownership group, you're going to make a lot of money. I don't think competition is on the forefront of their minds. I think we all need to kind of divorce ourselves from this
Maybe that's the
ideology
problem.
that competition
Because the
is not
money is
number
always
one.
going to be there. The money's going to be there.
The money is going to be there, and the money is going to create other opportunities. The Lakers need to keep their team intact because they don't have as much money as the Clippers owner. He is like worth like probably like $100 billion by now with all this Microsoft stuff. So he can do all kinds of stuff. The Buss family, I think they're worth whatever the Lakers are worth. So they need to keep making the Lakers better. So I think if you bought into Detroit and you're part of that ownership group, the value of that team is just the team. I don't know if it comes with like a bunch of
So do
external
you
stuff.
think there's even
So
enough
you're not going to
talent
sign off. They're not going to sign off on moving the team down. Maybe you move some players down, but yeah,
do you think there's enough talent for expansion to be getting the type of talk that it is?
No, not even.
I don't either.
It's barely. Look at this. The Boston Celtics are being kind of, I'm gobsmacked, I just want to say that, about the way people view their run through the playoffs, because the other team lost one of their star players. And it's like, oh, it's an easy road. Well, if you played more guys throughout the year, if you played 11 to 12 guys all year long, you would know that guy that you, like Gilbert Arenas in his first few years leagues was on the bench. Kobe, his first few years, was on the bench. Like, and you could put these guys in the game and they're putting up 60. James Harden was coming off the bench, and then he ends up dropping 60-point triple doubles when he goes to Houston. Put these guys in the game. It's the ownership's responsibility and the coaching staff responsibility to make their team
You're the best players in the world.
You're the best 400 players in the world. 440, I think the number is. Put these guys in the game. Stop getting these guys dressed just to sit on the bench because you're worried about the win-loss record. You're going to need them, because when Donovan Mitchell goes down, you need to know if this other guy who's also 6'4", 6'5", who plays a little bit like Donovan Mitchell, he plays it very hard in practice. You need to know if he can play in the game. So when it's November 15th and on Tuesday night and you got Cavs versus Magic, put him in the game. Give him some minutes. Like, it's 48 minutes in this game. You're playing 6 guys, 42 minutes, and you got guys sitting down there just getting checks from the owners. And then when one guy goes over,
I thought we were done talking about Darvin Ham.
I said all the guys.
Oh, my bad. My bad. I thought you were talking about Darvin Ham's methods. My bad. I got lost
No, I'm
there.
talking about everybody's methods. Every single coach is sitting out there with guys that can be in the game that they don't play. And then they wonder why, like, oh, this top draft pick didn't work out. Well, maybe if you challenge them with another guy, because like you got a team full of dudes that are 6'7" and 6'11. It's not that many people walk around in that kind of a group. Some of them have to be good at the sport.
See, and that's why I was trying to figure out, like, thinking of non-American options. I was trying to think of some places that, were not Europe that we could look at. So, like Mexico City, more people than New York. One of the main problems that I have with trying to put a team somewhere like that is that these players are already paying taxes in the states that they play in. They're already paying taxes in Canada. Now, you put them somewhere else, they're going to be paying taxes somewhere else too.
You got guys living in Mexico.
Yeah.
Playing for this team.
So to me, that doesn't work, even though Mexico City is a lot closer to a lot of places than I thought it was. Like to get from point A to point B is not bad. You could get to Boston in 5 hours. You could get to LA in 3.5 hours, so on and so forth. So
Mexico
it wouldn't be bad
City,
from a travel
London,
standpoint.
Germany, all of this works for the NFL because the NFL plays 17 games and they'll play, like I said, I have the notes here. They played, what is it? They played 32 games, 32 regular season games outside the United States since 2014. But it's only one game a week. Logistically, all you got to do is sell tickets for one game. NBA games could be 2 games one week, 3 games the next week. You're playing this stadium. You could have 4 in a week. You could be a primetime game, and you got to sell out 20,000 seat arenas. You can't do that with a bunch of G League guys that you send down to Mexico City to be the Mexico City Matadors, and hopefully that it just works out. When you can just send.
I was thinking the Aztecs, but okay.
The Mexico City Mayans, or whatever historical group we want to name them after, whatever moniker we want to go with.
Right.
But realistically, you gotta look at what you currently have. It's like, I got a bunch of shoes over here. I like them all, but I can't be like, damn, I don't have enough room for these shoes and buy more. Right. I gotta figure out, like, I got them stacked up against the wall now. Like, do I need all these over here, or do I need to move something else? Do I need to get another shoe rack? Like, I need to figure that part out before I'm like, let me go get more shoes. You can look at the struggling teams you have now. It depends on how close or how valued they are in the city. Like Oklahoma City is highly valued team in that city. The Cleveland Cavaliers are highly valued there. I'm not sure how much the New Orleans Pelicans are like entrenched into the community that is New Orleans, because they got LSU football.
Whenever they move on from Zion,
or just in general, like even keeping Zion, I don't know if that's enough. But if you move them to Vegas just in and of itself just sells. And like I said, if you move Sacramento up to Seattle, they're in the same time zone. I don't know. I think the simplest answers are normally the best ones.
Well, I would like to think
I'm not sure if people in these rooms are kind of understanding that the conundrum you have. Like, listen, man, we got people who talk sports all day long, and it's like pulling teeth to get a real lengthy basketball conversation going that doesn't involve LeBron, the Lakers, some mythical top 10, or who's going to
be Michael Jordan, even though he hasn't played in 21 years.
Like that's that's all the conversations you have going, really.
Well, like I was thinking about it because obviously Seattle has the nostalgia. People want the Supersonics back. They're, the iconic uniforms, all that good stuff, the Space Needle. Then you had
Vegas, a WNBA team there.
Vegas obviously brings in a new market, the money. We have the Raiders there now in the NFL. The A's are about to move there. So maybe Vegas is the next back-to-back WNBA champions. So maybe Vegas is the next basketball or sports town to explode. But I would think from a monetary standpoint, and I could be wrong, but from a monetary standpoint and just the way news and media work, I would think you would want to expand eastward, from the standpoint of, out west, all you have is the Lakers right now that really, I guess, ring bells, if you will. And Seattle, an expansion team in Seattle is going to take years to become good to the point of people caring about them outside of, hey, cool, Seattle.
But people care about Seattle as a city, as a sports town. You have
Yes.
MLB. Yeah, so you have MLB, you have WNBA, got the NFL. All of them seem to have dope uniforms. You throw the NBA right there, it fits right. It fits right back in. The cog is right back in the machine. You don't even have to resell the area on the idea of sport. You don't even have to. You don't. It sells itself.
Right. Vegas is already a destination.
It's already a destination. It's a touristy destination, and it already has champions. It has hell, you even have Major League Soccer, and you have NHL. Like you already have your infrastructure already built. As if I'm the NBA, all you have to do is tell New Orleans you're moving after the 24-25 season, and you have to do nothing else. T-Mobile Arena is brand new, is within like less than a few years. If you wanted to build their own arena, you could, because of space. You can build it right next to the Raider Stadium because there's nothing right there. It's across from Mandalay Bay. Like Vegas is expanding. You have plenty of space. You can make a whole New Orleans or Vegas, whatever you want to call them, Vegas Blackjacks compound, because there's so much space. You have everything you need there. Like you already have the drive for people. People love the sport. Oakland, the Athletics on their way there. The Raiders are already there. You already had a draft. You already had a Super Bowl. You had the Pro Bowl. Like they just had the F1. I know people in the city hated the F1 because it was kind of tearing it down. Like the people who lived there, but the visitors loved it, which is now it's on the F1 circuit. So like the city is booming. Whereas, do I take a G League team to London to see if I can make something happen because the potential of getting the European money is higher? Like, no, get this homegrown American green money and keep it moving. That way, you don't have to change much. Like I said, you move Charlotte to Seattle, you move New Orleans to Vegas, you move Memphis to the East. Now you get Ja Morant in prime time on the East Coast playing against Boston multiple times a year. Maybe you move Minnesota to get Ant-Man at East Coast time.
And this is why we need to be in these offices because, but I was, I was thinking about one last thing before we get out of here. So I was trying to think about it, like I said, I don't even want to get into the Europe idea. I know a few people have brought up Vancouver, but we've already been there, done that. It failed. Vancouver doesn't have anywhere to build a stadium, without renovating some old marvel of the world. But nobody ever talks about the second biggest city in Canada. Why not Montreal? They already have the Bell Center there that sits 22,000 people.
You want to put an NBA team there?
Yeah. I mean, the only problem is,
let me check the map real quick.
Yeah, I was going to say the only problem is it's still on that eastern side where Toronto kind of owns that block, if you will.
Yeah.
Let
me check the map real quick because I know Montreal is only like 6 hours driving from here.
And I do know that at least in hockey, Montreal and Boston is Montreal and Boston have the Habs and Bruins rivalry.
I mean, it's far enough away to where I don't think it'll impact it. It's a 6-hour drive. Toronto is just north of Buffalo, so they have like an American. They have an American like they're close to like Niagara Falls,
right?
From the other side.
So correct that it's so close to Buffalo, but we're not going to put an NBA team in Buffalo. So why not? Like we're not talking about no. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the comment. I'm talking to the comment.
Yeah.
Toronto. We're not talking NFL.
Yeah, Toronto is just north of Buffalo,
right?
And Montreal. The thing with Montreal is just north of. It's north of Vermont, and New Hampshire. So you don't have a lot of American fans. That's not a big basketball area. So I don't know how many American basketball fans are going to travel from Vermont up to Montreal on a regular basis, where I think getting people
Right.
from
Sort of how we were
Buffalo and
talking about Richmond
Rochester
earlier. Yeah.
to Toronto, I think that makes sense. And Toronto's a big city. It's very much like New York. So just
Right.
selling them on that. But Montreal's, like, from what I hear, is a nice city. I just don't know if it's enough, if it's if their love for hockey will ever diminish when you bring an NBA team there.
Right.
That's what, because we've already moved we moved the baseball team out of Montreal for that same reason. It's like it's not really locking in
But
to the
Montreal is
Canadians.
back on the table for MLB expansion.
But they had like 8 teams on there. I saw one that
Mhm.
was like 8 different cities potentially. I saw one an NHL expansion. They have Phoenix on there. I'm like, Phoenix just lost their team. And they have, so like, I just think the idea of relocation just sounds good, but in all actuality, I think you squeeze all the blood out of the stone you're gonna be able to get. I think
Right.
all the states that have teams, you're not putting a professional team in Iowa. We talked about Virginia, my home state. Logistically, is like, if you put it in Richmond, most of the people live an hour and a half, 2 hours down to Virginia Beach up to Richmond. Granted, without traffic, you could probably get there in an hour and a half. But it's
Right.
inevitable when you have that much water and bridges and tunnels and just traffic that's going back and forth with all the military bases and just everything else is kind of like that encapsulates that entire region. You're not gonna be able to put one in Virginia. Carolinas have their team. Georgia has their team. Florida has plenty of teams. Texas has plenty of teams. Louisiana has their team. So it's like Alabama has their college teams. I don't know what you're gonna be able to get other than
Well, one
going back
last
to the old place or going to the new place that's actually booming, which is Vegas. And Vegas
well,
is booming
the other place that I've heard, I wasn't really going to bring it up, but since you just said the things that you just said, Kansas City was another place that was brought up. You
for
know,
basketball.
yeah, they have the T-Mobile Center, not to be confused with T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. You know, where they already have the Big 12 basketball tournament. Because I was looking at St. Louis as well, like why Kansas City versus St. Louis, but just looking at St. Louis from a population standpoint, over the last 5 years, they've lost over 7% of their people.
And
So
that was
Kansas
part of the
City would
reason
be
that they moved it's the same reason that Oakland wanted to move out of the Athletics wanted to move out of Oakland.
right.
The Rams wanted to move because it was like LA needs in their mind, LA needed another team. So they were like, we can definitely go there. And that sometimes you might have to just do the retread of the more popular area. I know they try to do the moving from LA to St. Louis and bringing that Midwestern ideology into sport. We know that's a fallacy now. It's all about what Wall Street thinks of your team and what investment companies think of your team and who wants to advertise with your team. So you got to put them places where, like I said, some of these places just like the Cubs are never going to leave Chicago simply because it's Chicago Cubs.
right.
It may be 5 other places that they could have gone to over the last 20 years where it's like the Cubs could have been another team in LA before Anaheim went there. They could have gone to this area. They could have been one. They could have made 2 teams in Oakland just to kind of get that, another market. But it's like you can't take the Cubs out of Chicago. You can't take the
Right.
White Sox out.
Yeah, there's just certain teams that are synonymous with their cities.
Red Sox are never leaving Boston.
Right.
The Mets, no matter how poorly they are, they're never leaving Flushing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just some teams are that blue blood we talk about. But some teams are expendable, and I think we've highlighted a few of them that are expendable. And you got to make the decision on that instead of this dream of having 8 more teams. Like, listen, man, you're threatening blackouts for local games if the tickets don't sell enough. But yet, I looked up tickets for the Falcons Eagles game. That doesn't happen for 4 months, and it was $389.
Yeah, if you want relocation, just pop in NBA 2K. That's what you do. We already got the teams on the internet that people created that you could play with. You know what I'm saying? But on that note, you know what I'm saying, this has been Sports Reports is Ordered. Like, review, subscribe, share, do all the free things, do all the fun things, do all the great things. We will be back on Thursday, which is following game 3 of the NBA Finals. So,
Will it
Mr.
be
Logical,
2-1 or 3-0?
yeah, which one? Is it going to be 2-1 or is it going to be 3-0?
My gut says 2-1.
My gut says 2-1, but I'm going to just go ahead and say 3-0. I'm going to just say 3-0 because
Either way, I think it comes back to Boston 3-1. I think it comes back to Boston 3-1. I don't know if it's 2-1 and then Boston win game 4, but I think Boston closes out at home in game 5.
Yeah, I could see that. So, yeah, but we'll be back. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure we'll find other things to talk about in between. You know what I mean? Remember, if you got beef with me, don't be unfollowing me on Twitter if you ain't going to call me. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. But, yo, we love you, and we'll see you in a few days. Peace.